Alrighty, good afternoon everybody. My name is Louisa, for those of you who don't know me. I don't need it.
You do, because they need to record.
Okay.
Sorry, Cole, don't worry.
One of the education consultants here at Schoolbox, and I am joined in presenting today by Jez.
Yes, hello everyone. Many of you, I'm sure, know me. I'm now a product designer though, so that's why some of you might talk to me less. But here we are, good times, the two loudest people at Schoolbox in a room together. So yeah, without further ado, we are going to move on to looking at kind of the curriculum world in Schoolbox and what we think that means.
So today's presentation is going to be a bit of us talking at you, showing you, demoing some of the key features and how we can bring all of your curriculum needs into one space within Schoolbox. And then we have three fantastic presenters from different places across Australia to discuss the different ways that the Schoolbox unit planner and the functionality within the framework piece can be done in Victoria, New South Wales, specifically looking at NESA, and within Queensland. So as I said, we're going to be looking at functionality, doing a bit of a deep dive into what is available to you and the different pieces, stacking them upon one another and how they can all come to life, presenting you with a really lovely, clear picture of what curriculum and planning can look like within Schoolbox. And then we are going to have our excellent key speakers talking about all the benefits of doing that, and then we'll finish it off with some objectives and some guidance on how you might do that change management process within your school.
There you are.
Jumping ahead.
You do it. No, I do it.
So I'm going to turn this off for a sec and switcheroo. So, can you still hear me?
Might need to move.
You want to just hold it at my face?
No, but here we are.
Thank you. Alrighty, so basically with your curriculum requirements within Schoolbox, there are a couple of pieces that we stack upon one another in order to make it all come to life. So the first key piece is the unit planner, followed with the use of learning activities, but specifically the lesson plan templates and the lesson plan functionality. We build everything together to provide you with a scope and sequence sort of overview of what you're going to be covering across the year, and then using those lesson plan templates, you can get into the granular detail of how you intend to teach. This is really weird. How you intend to teach and provide the individual lessons and the weekly lessons and termly lessons and so forth within that space. So you do need to hold this so I can demo. So the first piece, as I mentioned, is looking at the unit planner. So I'm going to give you an example of first a junior piece here. What I really want to highlight here what we're looking at is each of these text boxes can be completely configurable to your school requirements. So I want you to think about when you are using a performer within your school, so any kind of planning documentation that you have within your school, we can easily transfer that into a Schoolbox version. So the way we do that is through homepage templates where we build them out in the back end, and that is exactly what feeds through to your unit planner view. What you'll see here is your unit being that your course being that overall theme or that overall topic that you intend, or that overall year that you intend to teach, and then all of the units that sit below it. So in this particular example here of a PYP unit of inquiry, you can see that it is the year 3 cohort, and then all of the different units that surface below are what is going to be taught within that particular course. So we've got the functionality to create a range of different text boxes, but as well as that, we can stack different curriculum components, meaning you can use things like the Australian curriculum alongside any other frameworks that you use, so IB for example, or you might have school dispositions or school characteristics that you also want to be able to track and map across the journey of your teaching. So what you can see here, as I mentioned, is that overview. So we've got each of these text boxes outlining what teachers need to be filling in to say, this is what I intend to teach within each of those units. And then you've got multiple, or as many as you require, curriculum components so that you can allow teachers to select the specific curriculum, and you can narrow it down to particular tree filters that you want to select from, and then have the teachers really just be able to select from the required pieces.
Just going to try this because my arm's tired. I'm getting old. Here you go.
So this here, as you can see, is a junior school example, but I'm also going to show you a senior school example. One thing I'll just say here, we are going to be moving through this relatively quickly, but if you want to see how to actually build it out, both Jez and myself are running sessions specifically on the junior school and being able to build this out within an instance, and Jez within the senior school. And both those sessions follow this one. So here you can see a different example being a Year 9 English course. The units below it, Romeo and Juliet, Persuasion and the Media, and as you can see, the text boxes, once again, completely different, meaning that you can have many different templates for various different faculties across the school, junior, senior, campuses, and different curriculum requirements and so forth. So again, when it comes to curriculum, what we've outlined here are the general capabilities and the achievement standards using the Australian curriculum. But as I said, whatever curriculum you use across the school, we can embed this within your different frameworks. The other great thing here just to note is that anything that you do within this unit planner view, this is for teacher view only. So teachers will be the only ones who can make edits, adjustments and everything within this particular view. But anything that you then type within this space can then be fed into the unit pages that will be, depending on your school requirements, visible to students and parents as well in this sort of much nicer, cleaner view. And the other thing that you can, as most of you already know, switch to student view to be able to see which components within that particular unit planner are then visible for other users. Okay. The third piece to this, so as I said, we've got the unit planner. We can build out a range of different templates and everything that feed into this particular unit planner view, depending on what you do across the school. But the next piece to that is to say, so how are we going to be demonstrating to our teachers and our students and our teachers how we intend to teach the more granular piece? So the lesson plan templates are that ability to get a little bit more into the granularity, as I mentioned. So you can create a range of different templates in the back end. You can create individual lesson plans, you can create weekly lesson plans, termly lesson plans. If you have a particular instructional design, you can create that as well, or anything that you can really think of, because really this is just a template. And for any of you who are keen AI users as well, one of the awesome things you can do here when you are building out those lesson plan templates is provide a particular prompt within the field description so that you are narrowing down what the individual teachers might be able to enter in that particular space, getting AI to sort of generate some initial ideas, but not, again, taking away completely from the teacher piece. This is just those initial ideas, but that field description acts as an additional prompt to filter down what you might like to include in that particular area. Finally, we have the curriculum coverage report. That's not the one I wanted to look at. That's all right. So as I mentioned earlier, you can tag various curriculums, but then the second piece to that is, of course, ensuring where have I missed particular pieces of the curriculum, what have I covered, just giving teachers the ability to have that full overview and oversight of what has been done throughout the year and what still needs to be covered. So this curriculum coverage report allows you to get really narrow in the particular curriculum that you want to have a look at, looking at various courses. If you are a curriculum leader, for example, you want to have a look at all your faculty areas, or maybe you're a year level leader and you want to ensure that your Year 2 curriculum has been covered across the board. So you can select your various courses and then your curriculum that you want to look at. So I'm going to use this PYP example, and I'm going to use the IB and learner profile. Here I can generate a report which allows me to see where my curriculum has been covered. I can click out to see exactly whether or not it's been assigned to a unit, a course, a particular learning activity, or assessments or rubrics. I can then generate that, export it as a CSV, so if I need to provide this to a particular governing body or for a particular audit, I am able to export that information as well. And I can also select to only use unused curriculum, meaning I can get that gap analysis. So I'm able to see what haven't I covered across the year, or what haven't my teachers yet covered, so that you can make that future planning for the following year, or you can sort of tap those teachers on the shoulder and make sure, hey, you need to make sure that you're looking at how you're going to be embedding risk-taker teaching within your practice. Have I forgotten anything?
No, but I'd probably just go via the curriculum view just to show the easiest way of getting there.
So you can get there via the curriculum view, and then you can click this little squiggly line to get your curriculum coverage report. But you can also get there from your particular course as well if you just wanted to have a look at your single course.
And it does let you pick lots of courses, but obviously the more you pick, the longer that report's going to take. So we'd suggest be kind of sensible. If you're doing English, do all of English together rather than trying to combine English, maths and science all in one report. You'll find it harder, but yeah.
Okay, as I mentioned, running through this relatively quickly as we've got 3 awesome speakers to hear from. But if you are interested to learn a little bit more about the functionality piece and how it can all come to life, please do attend the following 2 sessions on secondary and primary spaces, and we can give you a bit more of a doing session with us, unpacking it all together and giving you some really great examples of how it might fit in your particular context. But on that, I am going to hand over to our first speaker, Hayden, from Crest Education. I don't need to say too much, I'll just hand over. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Hayden Milstead. I'm Director of Learning Technologies at Crest Education. It's a new role for me this year. I've been working a little bit in that space for probably the last 7 or 8 years, but this year we got to expand the role, which has been lots of fun. I've been able to take on a bunch of different projects, working in between the IT team and the teaching and learning team. One of the biggest projects I was handed this year was to transition our IB campuses. So I come from Crest Education. We sort of run 2 schools in parallel with each other, Hillcrest Christian College, Rivercrest Christian College. Hillcrest runs just conventional Victorian curriculum, and Rivercrest do that with the IB framework. So we have PYP, MYP, and DP. And one of the big changes this year was we opened our Senior Learning Centre, which was a single precinct designed to take our Year 11 and 12 students from both schools and provide them with a choice of pathway. So we had students that may have been at Hillcrest wanting to do the DP, and vice versa, Rivercrest students wanting to do the IB diploma program. And then in that space, we had teachers working between both cohorts, and as it started with working between both Schoolbox and ManageBack, which we had been using for all of our IB courses from PYP through to DP. And that presented a lot of challenges. So I got given this job of trying to move our IB into Schoolbox, but I had a few goals in mind there. I needed to retain all the functionality that we had with ManageBack. We needed to ensure that that process was as smooth as possible, and that we took our input in from all our stakeholders. And yeah, we just wanted to make sure that it was a really good landing. Any change can be jarring, and if you don't get good buy-in and acceptance from your staff, you end up creating more problems later down the line. So that was the job I was given. To begin with, we wanted to get some really strong whys as to why we wanted to do that. We needed to explain that to everyone, and we needed to be sure in ourselves that it was the right decision to make. And so I've already explained we had the 5 different campuses. We also, when we initially started our Rivercrest, our IB school, Schoolbox didn't have a lot of the features that it had now. We needed something that was really set up to cater for the International Baccalaureate, and we didn't feel that Schoolbox was at that level yet, but they've been working really hard in that space, and credit to them. They've built a lot of features that support IB schools really well now, and because it's curriculum agnostic, we felt that it was a good solution that would enable us to field both curriculums in the same space, and so we wanted to take that on. And we want to have consistency for our students and our staff as well, going in through Schoolbox as a portal, and then going over to ManageBack for LMS and reporting. It was messy and confusing, hence why I've got the squiggly ball up there. We wanted to have some consistency, and we're still working down that journey, but that's why we got to that point. So we did a little bit of exploring on our existing Schoolbox courses and units. We'd been doing it in our Hillcrest Secondary for quite some time with ongoing reporting. We had lots of old units there. Some of them were built fairly well. Some of them were like this, and it was just basically a repository for files. We'd also been using Atlas for mapping out our curriculum and our units. Some of our campuses were just using Word documents in SharePoint. We didn't really have a central place where we kept everything in a consistent way. Some units were very bare and didn't really have a lot of content on there, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. You get a lot of inconsistency between staff members depending on how long they've been around and what they've been exposed to. Being able to create course frameworks and build templates was something that we thought was really important when we were building out our units for our Rivercrest campuses. And after we had some of those discussions, we had Joe came in and sort of showed us what we could be doing. We were pretty soon to say, actually, we need to be doing this everywhere, not just with our MYP and our DP, but also we need to do a rebuild over at secondary, where we had lots of variation and very simple templates that were being pushed out, and we wanted to take it on at primary as well. And so we spoke to some of the curriculum leaders there, we spoke to our heads of learning and teaching at campus, and they were really keen. So all of a sudden this project that I thought, oh yeah, we can probably knock this over in a term, became very, very big and had a lot more stakeholders. And gee, it was fun though. We had a lot of fun just working between them, and I built a lot of templates in term 2. So we started off with MYP, and I had to chat to lots of different curriculum leaders, work out what was required from an MYP perspective. We're moving, those of you that are in IB might have heard of the enhanced curriculum, which is something new that's sort of just been pushed out and is still in development, but we wanted to, if we were starting afresh, we wanted to start with the enhanced curriculum, which had some different requirements from an IB perspective, but fortunately our head of learning and teaching over at MYP was very much across that, and so I had a lot of consulting with him to build out a template that was going to work. We took a lot of examples of prompts that were in ManageBack, so that when teachers jumped onto this template that we'd built out for them, a lot of the headings were familiar, a lot of the empty state text that we used in those text boxes was familiar. So when they got into it, they were like, oh, okay, I can see how this would work. It's not something that's totally foreign to them. So we built out those templates for all of our MYP units, and then we had some workshop time. First of all, actually, I got some real go-getter teachers, curriculum leaders, and people that just are keen to adopt technology. And I had them test it out, and I had them give me some feedback. We made some changes, but then when we got around to the actual workshopping time, where we presented it to the rest of the staff, I already had half a dozen experts in the room. And even though we had Louisa and some other Schoolbox reps come along to that space, we didn't actually have to do a whole lot, because we already had people in the room that knew what they were doing, that were familiar with the templates that we built, and they could all help each other at their tables. So then we started to populate those units, and we're still sort of in that process, but we're starting to see our MYP curriculum built out to a point where now in 2026 we're going to be ready to pretty much close up shop from ManageBack, other than some of the things we're doing with core in our DP program, but all of our curriculum, all of our planning, and all of our due work assessment is going to be taking place on Schoolbox with those templates. We're doing the same process at PYP, although the templates look totally different, but we've been able to basically do as much work as we can on the back end, building out course pages, units. I've got into Photoshop scripts and made banners for all of the pages, so that when those teachers do transition across, it's going to be minimal work on their part, just populating, basically going into that unit planner tool that Louisa just showed before, going, okay, I can see what these boxes are, filling them in, ticking off their curriculum. When I presented this in the PYP staff room, just showing those curriculum components, I got a round of applause. I'm like, oh, okay, that's really cool. But they were keen to jump on board, and that's because we'd done the consultancy, we knew exactly what they were used to using, and we built it out in a way that was familiar to them. So there's from the unit planner perspective, where they were populating, working in that space. Sorry, my slides are in a slightly different order. It didn't translate all that well from PowerPoint to Google Slides. So that was our timeline. We started that journey in term 4 of last year, just having discussions at an exec level. What was it we wanted to do? How were we going to approach this so that it was a smooth landing? Then we had that meeting with Jo in term 1, just working out if what we had in mind was possible, what would be the best way to go about it. She convinced us that we should get consultancy just to help us ask the right questions at the right times. And so Louisa was on board for that, and we had lots of meetings with her, working with lots of stakeholders, and she was able to just ask us all the right questions so that we knew what we needed to find out. We'd come back with progress, and she'd tell us what the next steps were. So highly recommend that process for any of you that are looking at making some big changes. Just having that guidance there was really helpful. Then term 2 was when we built all of those templates out. At the end of term 2, we do a professional learning week, and that was when we presented it to our staff. And then term 3, the staff are working through building that out. We're not at the end of the road yet. We still are working through lesson plan templates, so we're doing a lot of consulting with various stakeholders to try to get a good sort of repertoire of lesson plans for different faculties, for different needs. And now that we've got in 25.1 all those fun templates that we can have in text boxes, we're probably going to have a bunch of time working out what templates we want to have in those as well. So what are some tips and takeaways? Consult, prototype, feedback, repeat. It's pretty straightforward. Any sort of change, that's what you want to be doing, making sure that you can get people on board. Find your keen early adopters, people that will jump in, put their hand up, try new things, give you feedback was very, very helpful. Keep it as familiar as possible, being able to link it to what they're already doing. It just takes that sort of shock out of changing to a new system if people are seeing familiar headers and text. And this is one that I learned this year. Not having the perfect prototype is actually a good thing. There were some things we presented to our stakeholders that were like, I'm not quite happy with how this is yet, but being able to present something that's imperfect and having them feedback and go, you know what, I think it'd be good if we change this, we should change this, has actually been really good because it means that they're taking ownership of those changes. And when it gets rolled out, they're like, oh yeah, that was my idea. I'm an owner of this change that's coming out. It's not just something that's being pushed down to me from leadership. So you don't have to have it perfect before you start presenting it to your teams. Still to come. Lesson plans, we want to build reflection templates as well. We think that's going to be something really helpful to have at the end of our units. IB Diploma Core, I've been chatting to Jez and a few others about that. We're not quite there yet. We're hanging on to Manage-Back. It comes back to I'm not going to push something out to my staff that I don't think is as good or better than what we're already doing, and we don't think we're quite there yet, but certainly something we're keen to do once that happens. And summative reporting will be the holy grail once we can get everything working in the same system. But looking forward to that. Thanks, everyone.
Before we go home, thank you. Thank you. Enjoy your evening with that wine. Okay, everyone. So next up, we've got Blake and Caitlin from Scott's PGC up in the Queensland. So yes, welcome.
Hi everyone, as I said, my name is Blake Vaturis. I'm the Director of Teaching, Learning and Innovation at Scott's PGC. My teaching background is dance, vet and HPE.
And I'm Caitlin Woodbine. I'm the Head of Languages and Arts at Scott's, and I teach drama and English.
So Scott's PGC is a co-educational prep to 12 school of about 500 students. We're both day and boarding. Our location is in Warwick on the Southern Downs in regional Queensland. From curriculum, we deliver from Prep to 10, the Australian Curriculum version 9. In Year 11 and 12, we follow the Queensland Curriculum and Assessment Authority pathways. We're accredited through the Non-State Schools Accreditation Board in Queensland. We also run specialist senior pathways that start in Year 10. So we give our students early exposure to university pathways, as well as vocational and industry-based study options. And we are a school-based RTO, so we're delivering about 5 individual vet qualifications, and we deliver about 4 additional ones through external partners. Obviously, Schoolbox is our learning management system, and TAS is our sort of SIS.
So we were introduced to Schoolbox in 2020 when we had our initial training, with initial rollout then happening in 2021, mostly in our middle school and senior school. We tried to engage our junior school, but they were very reluctant at the time. Overall, our staff were pretty reluctant because they had experienced 3 different LMSs in 7 years, and this was about to be the 4th. Super stoked about the change. So initially, we just focused on the class pages being used to store summative assessment and unit pages being used as storage for files. So really basic introduction, low stakes. But what that led to was a lot of different approaches in how the pages were used between faculties, sub-schools, and even teachers within these faculties and sub-schools. So because we had no clear leaders in progressing the system and overseeing the implementation of updated components, our approach to using Schoolbox really had not changed since that initial rollout.
So I joined Scots in 2023, and I came into the school, I think I'd used every other learning management system out there besides Schoolbox when I joined the community. But from my previous experience, I really had a clear idea of what I wanted from the LMS to do for us at Scots, particularly around managing and delivering curriculum and classroom content. When Caitlin and I first sat down, when I started teaching classes at Scots and wanted to build my Schoolbox pages, we came across some issues, and we couldn't work out whether it was gaps in how the system worked, whether it was just gaps in how the college had implemented the system and not grown, or whether there were just simple gaps in our knowledge on how the platform worked. So we really sat back and sort of started thinking a bit more strategically about what we wanted from Schoolbox. We kind of identified some key goals, one around creating and managing digital content, curriculum mapping across all subjects, consistent use of unit pages, and we're trying to reduce the administrative load on staff. So we, probably like most schools, we're using shared documents in SharePoint and Word to do all of our unit planning, and we know templates sometimes go awry and teachers get really frustrated. And then it's also hard to go in and manage that and see what is happening in classrooms at any one point in time. So sort of to start the solution, we had also had a problem with our communication components in Schoolbox. So our advancement team led the communication audit of the system, and we found that process really, really amazing. Like, it really helped us rethink how we delivered communication to parents, to students, to teachers. So we then invested in the LMS audit. And again, we wanted to get that same level. Where are our strengths? Where can we improve? And how could we manage our pages and learning differently? We were really lucky. Louise Haynes did both our audits for us. So she, having worked with the college then for a long period of time, really understood how our system worked for us and also our college content, which I think made the process much better for us.
So our LMS audit found that we had really strong foundations in place, but we were inconsistent, who's shocked, in how we use the pages and the features. In particular, there were a heap of features and components that we weren't even using at all. Initially, there was a problem with page permissions, and that was an easy fix, but it also enabled us to rethink the hierarchy of the pages and who actually needed access to what as far as our parents and students. We attended the South East Queensland Forum and were hugely inspired by what the other schools were doing. And that's where we initially found out about all of these features that we weren't using and just how awesome they could be. We highly recommend, if you have an event like that near you, they are incredibly inspiring and useful if you need to ignite that fire back into you for how to use your LMS, because that's really what got us going in this direction and led us to our project to enhance our LMS functionality.
So from the audit, we shaped a project aimed at redefining how we use Schoolbox at Scots. The focus on creating consistency, reducing teacher workload, and better supporting our students' learning. So the key actions were we redefined the use of the class, unit and course pages. So then again, they had a clearer purpose for both students, teachers and the community. We implemented new features, included unit planning, looking at how we manage our curriculum, using lesson plans. We also wanted to better utilise the updated components. So this is particularly the quiz feature has come a long way, and we found that was much better than what we had originally were using, and also the interactive worksheets were a big change for us. This also helps making learning more engaging, but also improved our data-informed practice. We also introduced naming conventions across the college to make the, again, consistency, but also to try and reduce cognitive load. So the same banner is used in maths as it's used in English, so that, again, the kids have that consistency in the pages. And we also simplified our work types, because at this point too, we've also implemented IntelliSchools. And we found in our the way we were naming assessments was, again, very inconsistent, which then made that progression to IntelliSchools really hard.
So our audit found that on our class pages, we really didn't need to change a lot, but our biggest change was locking them down so that parents no longer had access to them on Schoolbox's recommendation. This kept our teachers really happy, because when we presented this back to them, the pages they interact with the most are their class pages. So there was really minimal changes to their daily jobs, because they were still interacting with these pages in the same way, in a mostly unchanged way, I should say. Our course pages were a little bit of a different story. From the initial rollout in 2021, there was a real misunderstanding about what the function of these course pages was. And when Blake arrived, I really struggled to explain to him that they were sort of like a title page, but also a table of contents, but also not really either of those things. So this is something we definitely wanted to change in our project, and they've now become basically a digital handbook for our parents and students to have easy access to for subject selection and general overall information. When we took parents' access away from the class pages, we had to make sure that they still had access to enough information to feel connected to their students' learning, and we did that through the course page redevelopment. Again, to save our teachers the bulk of the workload here, we had a working group who developed a standardised template, which was then implemented across the college and filled out with as much pre-populated information as our working group could to take that burden away from our teachers.
So we do have a video sample of just what the course page now looks like. As Caitlin said, we developed 3 distinct templates, one for the P to 10 ACARA, one for Year 11 and 12 in QCAA, and then also a VET template. Each template is obviously tailored to the requirements of their curriculum that they support. There is difference, but there are minor differences between them, mostly linked around curriculum mapping and assessment requirements. We also, again, wanted to make them very parent and student friendly. That then sort of led to this idea to develop them as course guides. So we've now shifted, instead of using, we obviously, like lots of people, use PDF course booklets in the past. We decided they're really time consuming to keep updating, and they often become out of date as soon as you've sent it off home to family. So we've now, with those course pages, developed also like a course handbook page. This is like a digital course guide where we can link our lines. At this part here, we can link every single course page with common banners, so parents can then, and students, jump in and see what every course is about as they go through the subject selection process. Our goal is to do this for the whole school eventually. So we've started with Year 11 and 12 and Year 9 and 10 around the subject selection process, but as we progress, we'll have them then across the whole school. The next sort of step was we looked at redefining our unit pages. So as Caleb mentioned, one of our biggest challenges were the inconsistencies on how these pages would be used. Some people were using them as planning, some departments were using them as actually like interactive textbooks where the students logged into the unit page to get their course information. It was really cluttered. So this is where our biggest change was. We turned unit pages into being staff access only. They now function as a digital planning space for staff to develop their planning, to develop all their documentations. We also put in our NCCD and learning enhancement compliance, which is why we locked them down to just being staff access only. because we wanted a really secure space so we could put all of that. The benefits now that we have a common place for compliance, it will give us increased oversight, especially for middle and senior leaders across the school.
So just like the course pages, we created 3 templates, a Peter Tanakara, an 11 and 12 QCAA, and then our VET page. And they included syllabus or competency-specific components focused specifically on compliance and oversight. So these templates were specifically designed to take the place of our traditional unit planning and scope and sequence documents. And like Louisa mentioned, when we initially made this template, we put a text box or a component for every part of our unit plan. So it was just the Word document unit plan, now on a unit page on Scott's Connect or Schoolbox. We refined it a little bit from there. Putting it onto Schoolbox allowed us to see, do we really need that part there? And it meant that once we introduced them to staff, what seemed like a huge brand new task of new way of planning was actually just copying and pasting from their Word document into this system, which now houses it forevermore. So we sold that as a reduction of work in the following years because the planning exists and can be edited easily without having to copy a Word document, take out all of the NCCD information, blah, 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 blah.
So with designing our templates, we were really conscious in the unit page to look at function over aesthetics, which is different than obviously from our course pages and our class pages, which are much more aesthetically pleasing for students and parents. The focus was on creating user-friendly planning templates that met our state authorities' requirements. Our main goal was to reduce year-on-year staff cognitive load by cutting and pasting and double handling of things. By streamlining this process in Schoolbox, it also reduces the time spent at the start of the year. With previous notions, we were setting up class pages every year, and obviously when you archive it, you lose everything. So we would have 2 days where staff would literally recopy and paste everything from last year's page into the new page. It was horrifically a waste of time. So now, again, another selling point was now that we build them in unit planners, we've built all the class materials in unit plans, they're just now downloading to their class page that takes 5 minutes, as opposed to the hours they were spent rebuilding class pages. Unit planning, we find them really interchangeable. When we sold this to staff was, it depends on how your brain works. Some people want to see the big picture and plan that way. Some people want to plan on the unit page. So with our staff, we kind of said, you do it how you want to do it. The only great other thing about the unit planner is that it takes away, we don't need to do scope and sequence documents anymore, because I can click on Year 9 English and I can see exactly what Year 9 English does and get a really good overview. So again, it's reducing the amount of paperwork that our staff are doing. So curriculum mapping was obviously a next part that's really, really important to us. And as was demonstrated, there are a lot of preloaded curriculums in the system. Unfortunately, Queensland's QCAA curriculum is not preloaded into the system, and neither is any VET qualifications. But we found that to be a really simple process to add them in. And so we have just done that. So one advantage for us in that space is being our own RTO. We are now going to build a lot of our competency-based tasks in Schoolbox with the correct VET mapping that then can be stored on the server. We've had changes in Queensland in terms of compliance. We have to hold data for a lot longer than we used to. So that means that all that data can be held in Schoolbox now and archived. And I said, it's quite a simple process to start adding curriculum. As long as you have an idea of how you want it to be structured, I think, added a whole VET course within an hour block yesterday afternoon. So it's not that hard to do. It's a lot of copy and pasting, but admin staff would be more than capable than doing it.
So digital content for us was a priority, and we are fully implementing the lesson plan feature from 2026. However, our school has historic pushback about lesson by lesson planning, which means we actually changed the name of lesson planner to topic planner. My hint to you there is, if you think something can't be renamed, ask. It probably can.
Louise showed us in about 5 seconds when she was doing a presentation, and there was a bit of pushback. We said, it's just the name Schoolbox use. Louise changed it in 5 seconds to topic planner, and all that pushback just fell away.
So again, we included the three specific syllabus templates. Now, topic plans for us might go for a lesson, they might go for 3 lessons, they might go for a week or 2 weeks. I know in drama, if we're in a period of rehearsal, I have a topic planner that goes for 3 weeks with rehearsal tips, how do you remember your line tips, things like that. And that sits there on our class page for them to access. It allows for personalisation for subjects and teachers across the different sub-schools and faculties, and it also allows for the topic planners to be imported to different teachers' class pages and then personalised for the students that they have in front of them. We wanted a way to begin to change to a more hybrid approach to delivery, and the topic planners enabled us to do that. It also meant that we could standardise some of this across the college, and we developed the naming conventions that Blake mentioned and some iconography that would allow for a reduction in student cognitive load across subjects and year levels. Our school also has a heap of boarders and a huge co-curricular program, which means we have students out of class a lot. What moving to these topic planners or lesson planners means is that it's really easy for those students who have high absenteeism to catch up, because all of the content is there linked to the specific topic that they are studying that week. As a head of faculty, it means that there's a lot more consistency in the key content being taught. For instance, we have 2 Year 7 English classes. Our topic planners hold the basic information that they have to cover. Once they're imported to the different class pages, the teachers personalise for their students in front of them. We're not taking away that ability to personalise, we're making it easier for them to access the core content and then personalise for those students. In the previous use of the LMS, the teachers were fatigued with the year-to-year uploading of the resources to their class pages, and this new approach lets us reduce the administrative load at the start of each new unit.
So in our topic plans, again, a bit of a video from our instance, but we obviously see this as the finer details of planning. The unit page we describe as being the overarching detail of the unit being delivered, where the topic planner then breaks it down and identifies the specific content in the unit and the teaching strategies on how to deliver it. This shift has given our staff a structured, layered approach to planning, with big picture level at the unit level and then the practical level of the topic pages. When we move to the content, again, the content is how we're going to deliver it to our students. Again, when we've trained, we talk to our teachers. Some teachers do that as teacher-led, so they bring up the instance on the board and they go through lesson bit by bit. It also has allowed for some self-guided learning for our students too. Again, being a regional school, online learning can be really important, especially in senior years. So this is also giving us the opportunity to embed that sort of online learning model with our younger students. So if they decide to do distance ed when they enter year 11 and 12, they've got those skills. We've also, with the great thing about the topic pages or the topic planners, you can link all of your activities at the bottom of the page. So if you want them to do a quiz, if you want them to do an interactive worksheet, that's all linked at the bottom. So they don't, with our old systems, they would be clicking in and out of Schoolbox to other places to find everything. It's now in one spot. So again, the students aren't clicking out of the lesson plan to do the quiz you want them to do. It's all in one spot, which again is reducing that cognitive load on students. And it's a much more intuitive approach than what we had been using previously. So moving to rollout. So as we said, we had a working group. So it was myself, Caitlin, and our assistant head of middle school. So we met weekly over the 6-month period of the audit, and it's probably something going to leave us a standing meeting as we now, when new things come into Schoolbox, we can then look at that and work out how we will deliver the new content. But this allowed us to develop all the templates. We established the naming conventions document. We completed all the post-audit and administrative processes that we need to do to make sure the system is up to date. We also heavily use the curriculum committee. So our curriculum committee is our heads of faculty, heads of junior, middle and senior school, heads of learning enhancement, our RTO manager, and we also had a junior school representative on it. They then got to review what we were doing. So when we made a template, we sent it through that committee to then have a look at, critique, send back. So there was a really good collaborative approach with that process. And they also got to see that consistency. So things that we thought were great, when we spread it to the bigger group, they said, can you refine that slightly? So that was a really good process. We're doing about a 6-month implementation plan of this. So we rolled it out to staff at the start of term 3. Our goal is for every teacher to adopt it by the start of 2026. So that is moving all of our planning from SharePoint into Schoolbox for the start of 2026. And obviously we're going to donate some time in term 4 to allow that to happen. We do have early adopters that are starting to use it now because they saw it, they were just keen. Or they were developing new programs, they decided, why would I do it here when I could just start in the system? The early adopters are also great because they're gathering feedback from students, and it also, again, helps us tailor that to the students' needs. So as part of the trialling phase, we've used it mostly in our secondary school, so from year 7 through to year 11. And again, we've used it across the ACARA, VET and QCAA pathways. Early feedback from students has been really, really positive. Our students love that they're not jumping backwards and forwards. Our regional location, our kids aren't actually that technological savvy. OneDrive confuses them. So this has meant that everything's in one place for them. And that's also improved engagement, especially with the use of the interactive elements such as worksheets and quizzes. We can track engagement much better. And we're seeing sort of that you can see the students' progress in real time, which has been a real game changer, I think, for us in our classrooms.
Yeah, so this year I had a year 10 class who had learning needs from year 3 to beyond year 10. And I found that interactive worksheets were a game changer. Because of the functionality within Kami, I had students who were doing the bare minimum of circling what I've asked them to circle. I had students who worked out you can change the colour of your pen and the colour of your highlight, so I can match my little annotation I've left over here for Miss Woodbine to the colour that I've circled this thing with. They also love stickers. If you're scrolling through class view and you put a sticker on their worksheet, you will hear a whoop from the back of the room because they are so excited. But also for our students who need that little bit more support, they're not putting their hand up and saying, I don't understand this, and drawing attention to themselves. You're simply leaving a note saying, don't forget this. And nobody is the wiser that you have actually differentiated for that student right under their noses.
Yeah. So overall, this project has shifted Schoolbox from being just a storage space for content and becoming a dynamic teaching, learning and planning platform for us. And it's streamlining staff workflow, improving student experiences, and then it's strengthening parent visibility. Thank you.
Thanks.
Next up, we've got Chloe and Nash from St Paul's Walla Walla. So, time's ticking. Just apologies. Please.
All right, thanks, Jez. Afternoon, everyone. My name is Nash Clark, Director of Teaching and Learning, and this is my colleague Chloe Hamlin, Digital Learning Coordinator. We are both grateful to be here today, so thank you for the invitation. Chloe and I both teach at St Paul's College Walla, an independent secondary boarding and day school servicing the rural communities of the Riverina in southern New South Wales. Our hope through sharing our experience and insights with you today is to spark ideas and discussions that will support your journey, and for our New South Wales counterparts, highlight how we use Schoolbox for registration and academic compliance. In 2023, the college embarked on a journey to find a new LMS, and with the inspiration of Meetup 2024, and our college journey began. This coinciding with the rollout of lesson plans and a sneak preview of unit planners. Semester 1 2024, we began the implementation of Schoolbox, prioritising implementation by establishing our internal timeline and ensuring staff readiness. Semester 2 saw the rollout of the full LMS to students, introducing courses, units, lesson plans simultaneously. This phase emphasised exploration and experimentation to identify optimal approaches and develop staff and student confidence. This year, our focus shifted towards consolidation, consistency, and the rollout of communication. Semester 1 involved completing all courses, unit pages, and refining our lesson plan templates and quality of lesson plans, and rolling out internal communication. Semester 2 marked the launch of our external communication and marketing phase, beginning with news items and groups before transitioning to external communication supported with the TAS Orbit app, significantly enhancing the effectiveness and purposefulness of our end user. Following our initial rollout, we were pleased to see that our timeline and implementation strategy had successfully met the needs of our staff, students, whilst matching our school context. With a strong focus on foundation training and engagement, we laid the groundwork for meaningful use of Schoolbox across the college. Consolidating on this foundation, Chloe and I turned our attention to the next wave of considerations, those that naturally arise when a system begins to embed itself in everyday practice. As Director of Teaching and Learning, I began hearing from heads of department who were keen to establish cross-faculty consistency. Teachers also started to explore how Schoolbox features such as courses, unit pages and lesson pages might line with New South Wales Education Standard Authority, or NESA, registration and procedures may support compliance in a more streamlined way. At the same time, we saw growing interest in the additional Schoolbox functionality, including unit planners and curriculum mapping tools. This prompted a collaborative response from our curriculum team. We began sharing and co-constructing greater consistency across Schoolbox features, supported by course and unit page templates. This horizontal sharing across faculties not only improved consistency but also enhanced teaching and learning. While I focused on clarifying the requirements around NESA requirements, Chloe led the investigation into unit planning through Schoolbox. Her goal was to explore how we could help staff be more productive in their lesson planning, not just for compliance, but to genuinely support the rollout of new syllabus in a way that felt purposeful and manageable whilst continuing to develop teaching and learning.
When it came to programming and registration, our starting point was the framework provided by NESA requirements. Traditionally at our school, the documents were structured around guiding questions of what we taught, how we taught and when we taught it. These form the foundation of our teaching and learning programs, providing the necessary evidence for both accreditation and accountability. While these documents served their purpose at our school, they were very static. They were often created individually, they were stored and archived in ways that were really limiting the accessibility and collaboration of our staff. The Schoolbox LMS capabilities gave us the opportunity to rethink this process. Within that platform, we could embed syllabus outcomes directly into the unit pages. We could clearly show the content being taught through lesson plans, while also making teaching strategies transparent. For the first time, outcomes, content and pedagogy were in one place, live and visible for staff. It's important to note that NESA does not prescribe how schools must record their programming and registration, and each school determines its own approach. But the requirements are clear. Programming and registration must include dated records alongside teacher reflection and evaluation. With this in mind, we began to ask, could Schoolbox not only meet these requirements, but also strengthen and streamline the process? Working alongside Nash, we tested this idea. Together we presented predictions and possibilities to our executive team, demonstrating how our digital approach could meet and even enhance the NESA requirements. To control the process, we created a unit planner that aligned with our existing program that we already had in place. The registration practices shifted from the digital platform of a Word document template to our Schoolbox. This was not about creating more work, but moving our established process that we were doing really well onto a platform that just provided greater accessibility for all staff. The pivotal moment came when we actually met with our NESA liaison officer. The feedback was clear. Schoolbox platform not only met all NESA requirements, but it provided a really strong and effective way of programming and registration. And I guess this confirmation gave us the confidence to continue building forward. Here you can see a visualization of our current program template. Oh, thank you. Like I said, it's static. It was a Word document, and it was housed on another platform, often stored in our school share drive. While it fulfilled its purpose, it ticked every box. It just restricts the interactive use of it. The purpose of The program itself includes everything that was essential for NESA compliance, which was the syllabus outcomes, content being taught, and our teaching strategies used. In addition, it also documents teacher reflection and evaluation. This static structure became a really significant driver for us to explore how digital platforms such as Schoolbox could streamline the process and create it become more dynamic. When we rolled out Schoolbox, we were really fortunate that we only, our one and only option that was sold to us by Jez was the lesson plans, this is the go. At the end of the day, that became a really crucial first step for us in being able to then use the unit planner. So our lesson plan design was shaped by Lutheran Education Contemporary Learning Framework. This is a blank copy of that. It's grounded by our 21st century pedagogy, and it emphasises the importance of teaching practices that are adaptable and collaborative. Within the Schoolbox lesson, we created two distinct perspectives. We have a teacher view and a student view. The teacher view has a component of differentiation and extension that it is not visible to students, however recorded. The early version of our lesson plan template was broad. The plan of building familiarity and confidence with onboarding that proved to be really good for our staff. It was a stepping stone in that, and our staff gave the opportunity to gradually embed their current practices into that. You're right.
Sorry, Chloe, I have to cut you off because we're just about over. But thank you very much,
Thank you.
Nash and Chloe. Thank you. I'm pretty sure all these presentations will be put up on the line later, so there will be a chance to access anything. There's stuff about on here. We did have a Q&A planned, no time. There's stuff about change management, no time. But the important thing, back one more. No, not that one. It doesn't matter. If you want to hear more about how to do these things in a primary school context, stay in this room. If you want to do more about it in a secondary school context, the Perth room, which I think is that way, basically they are the same thing. We're just talking about it slightly differently with our own experiences. So thank you for listening, everyone. Feel free to move on.